Golly, I'm becoming famous. Well, in a very small way. You saw at the beginning of the show in Egypt, a man who has his own TV station out there. He did a little broadcast about me, and now I'm fairly well known in parts of Egypt, which is about as far as I could ever have dreamt. Also, closer to home, Islamic leader, Imam in Alberta, doesn't speak for all Muslims. Let's be quite proportionate here, but he has a great deal of influence. Syed Soharwardy, who I think spoke at the Royal Military College, did he not? I'll wait for clarification and classification of that. But he made a statement after, you remember this, Jason Kenney, Minister of the Crown, government minister, part of an elected government. You may not have voted for the Tories, but that's democracy, isn't it? He dared to say that during the citizenship ceremony, something which is, well, I won't say sacred, but profoundly important, a woman who covers herself completely in a veil will just briefly have to lift up the veil, as she said she swore to be a good Canadian citizen. Now, that's not that aggressive an act. I think it's actually probably less than what we should be doing. Most people, vast majority of people said, we support this, we agree with this. But a few in the chattering classes said, oh, no, you can't do that. What about charter right to freedom of religion? I find it fascinating that people who, on a daily basis, disregard the freedom of religion of Catholics and evangelicals, think it's very important when fundamentalist Muslims have their freedom of religion. Let me just say this. In Mecca, the center, the epicenter, the quintessence of Islam, the place of the most fundamental worship, you're meant to, as a Muslim, go on pilgrimage there once in your life. Do you know that there, women are not required to cover themselves like that? Not at all. Modesty, but women in Mecca are not required to cover themselves. But this idea that Muslim women have to cover themselves completely, it is not Islamic. In fact, it predates Islam. It is pagan, tribal from early 6th century. However, some people want to do it. Fine, they want to do that. Some women want to walk around topless. Sadly, it's the law, they're allowed to. But when you become a citizen, show some respect. You're not going to be topless, and you're not going to cover your face as though you are an occupier living in some sort of tent. Now, Jason Kenney simply said this, and there was a response from this man, Syed Soharwardy in Calgary in Alberta, who said that Muslims are now treated in Canada the way Jews were in pre-Holocaust Germany. Kristallnacht, 1938, the mass slaughter of Jews, synagogues burnt, people beaten up on the street. Before that, in the 30s, denied jobs in both the public and the private sector, beaten, called vermin and scum. The comparison is grotesque. Well, he made a sort of apology. May we please see the video of that apology now?
And I said the current situation of Muslims that we are facing is trending towards a situation that will be very, very horrible. I'm not sure when that will become a horrible situation. And I created sort of some similarity just to make a point. Not to insult or not to be unrealistic or insensitive.
It wasn't an apology at all. As my dear old mum used to say, he likes the sound of his own voice, doesn't he? He's surrounded by cameras. He has the ear of Canadian media. He's treated far too well, I think, in Canada, so he can then explain to Canadians it's just like being a Jew in 1936 in Germany. Oh, good Lord. They were leaving in huge numbers, Jews in Germany, because they knew what was going to happen, and life was so hellish for them. Is that really the life of a Muslim in Canada? Now, he didn't apologize. I was on a show earlier today and I used the term masturbation. Forgive me, I know it makes you go blind, but there's a form of political and religious masturbation going on here. Look at me, self-love, self-devotion, I am everything. Sir, you're not, you have very little to say, and I'll emphasize this. I do not think you speak for all Muslims or anywhere near all Muslims in this country. But he commented about me. We're going to show you that video a bit later, but I want first to show you the monologue I delivered when this initially happened, when Jason Kenney dared to say, and I know Jason Kenney well, he's a very, very decent man and a kind man, and he has a great respect for religion too. This is not about religion. It's about an aggressive form of political isolation. I am not like you. It's certain women who have been forced, explicitly or implicitly, directly or indirectly, to dress in such a way and say we're not like other Canadians. When he merely said, when you become a citizen, be a Canadian, I delivered this monologue. Let's have a look at that now, please. Now, following our democratically elected government's decision to merely ask women covering their faces with a veil to briefly show themselves during the citizenship ceremony, the leader of the Islamic Supreme Council of Canada kindly showed us why we have to be incredibly careful with extremism and how unreasonable Islam really is. He said this, and I quote, "Muslims are going through that situation right now that the Jews faced before the Holocaust, because intimidation of their faith, bad-mouthing of their faith, bad-mouthing about their book, bad-mouthing about their beliefs, that was going on in Germany before the Holocaust. Same thing is happening now about Muslims. So this is absolutely an alarming situation that a few Islamophobes are winning." Yeah, I see. So Jews in 1930s Germany who were, fired from their jobs, beaten up on the street, had their homes firebombed, were murdered in pogroms such as Kristallnacht in 1938, were described as rats, scum, vermin, as a disease, as non-human, filth and enemies of the state, are just the same as Muslims in 2012-2011 Canada, who are given special treatment by the courts, given jobs just because of their faith, have special protection from being offended by our legal system, have TV shows made about them glorifying everything they do, and enjoy a level of privilege they would never have experienced in their former homelands. Yeah, sorry, I can't quite see the similarity. Maybe it's just me. Mind you, while Jews in Europe were fine from 1945 until recently, they're increasingly attacked by young thugs, almost all of whom are Muslim. As are so many of the rape gangs in Australia, the gangs of men who groom young white women in Britain as sex slaves, the people who burn poppies on Remembrance Day, who commit honour killings, who make no-go areas for non-Muslims, and on and on and on. Now, a phobia is usually assumed to be an invalid, unnatural fear, but tell me, what is invalid or unnatural about fearing a religion that in its heartlands of the Middle East and parts of Asia is intolerant, that denies freedom of religion and speech, that exhibits a hysteria and an anti-intellectual violence that would have shamed a medieval crusader, that treats women and minorities with a clawing disdain, that rejects progress and that moans about persecution each time it is exposed? It is not I, not the West, not Canada that jumps into the mud of female genital mutilation, Holocaust denial, punishing women for being raped, hanging homosexuals, turning children into suicide bombers, committing acts of terror on innocent people, murdering others of the same faith with a satanic glee. Look, all are welcome to Canada, but only if they in turn welcome Canada into them. You have every right to cover your entire body, but not here. You have every right to reject all for which we stand, but not here. You have every right to believe that your religion is all that matters and to dismiss all others, but not here. Not here. The government's decision about veils being akin to the plight of Jews in pre-war Europe, the only place where Jews now feel frightened is in the land of the Muslims. For you, sir, to make the comparison is not only dumb beyond human belief, it is downright bloody evil. No, 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 not here. It's quite good, actually. Now, bear with me. The man who originally made this statement, it's like being a Jew in pre-war Germany, in pre-Holocaust Germany, being a Muslim today, he then spoke about me. He got my name wrong, but that's not that surprising. Let's have a look at that video, please.
I was watching David Coren yesterday on your Sun TV, and with all due respect to my Sun fellows here, and I was horrified. I was horrified when I watched that clip. He's an educated guy, and he is talking about something which an educated person should not be saying it. I mean, how can you say that what is happening in Saudi Arabia or Pakistan or Afghanistan, you guys go back to those countries because this is what is happening in Saudi Arabia, this is what is happening in Pakistan. Excuse me, we chose this country to avoid those things, what is happening there. We do not want Canada to go backward. This is my message.
Did I say that? I've got the monologue in front of me. I said no such thing. No such thing. And who is trying to bring that sort of barbarism to Canada? Well, it's not me. Is it, my friend? Is it?